when I came, they just started with it, just doing QA, but nothing major in MarTech, like no MMP, no revenue infrastructure, no nothing. So it was fun to start like that. And then knowing a little, at least, about MarTech, I jumped into it and said, okay, we need an MMP because otherwise, when we scale, we don't see the true value we are getting back. And in this scale, which Mapy has like 4 million, 5 million monthly active users. So in this scale, you need to think about pricing and what you are getting for that.
My name is Jacob Rushvin, CEO and founder of Botsy. Today we talk with Jakub Chour. Jacob has worked for years in mobile marketing. Currently, he's at a company called Mapy, leading growth and monetization. Mapy was a free product with little MarTech, so we talk through what it looks like to start monetizing a previously free app with a large user base and all the tools you need to get started. Let's dive in.
Hey, thanks for joining. Really excited to have you here, Jacob. This is Jacob Chour. Really appreciate you having you on the podcast today. You want to give everyone a quick background on yourself, quick introduction?
Jacob, sure. So I have been in the industry, mobile industry, for maybe 10, 15 years even. So really a long time doing everything from lifecycle marketing and classic desktop ads that went to mobile pages and app stores. So I remember a lot, or I wish I remembered a lot. And for the last 5 years, I was working for a Y Combinator company called Her, which is an BTQ plus dating app, doing or starting as a like sole marketer, lifecycle UA, then switching to revenue optimization, then web optimization, web to ad, and whatnot. So yeah, that's me. That was me for the last 5 years. And now I'm working for Mapy.com. That is like a local hiking and biking app that I really love.
That's awesome. Well, it's quite the gambit, kind of different areas in mobile growth where I think, often it's hard to often people get stuck in kind of one area or just work on lifecycle marketing or just do acquisition or maybe just kind of monetization. Yeah. How did you kind of transition through those kind of different focus areas?
But it was necessary and there was no one around. So I just started clicking and it worked, at least like somehow, it's like I was never the best and most detailed marketer, but doing a lot of things made me just more curious and more knowledgeable about everything that's going on in marketing.
Yeah, I think I found that too. And maybe the same at small companies. It's often better to know a few things than just one thing really well. Where it just you only have so many people that you need to do a lot, and you need to constantly be learning new things. So maybe that's a similar for you.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. So I think what I'd really love to talk about today is, you were telling me about how at Mapy you didn't join so long ago and you didn't have a really built out tech stack. And so would love to kind of chat through like what went into kind of decisioning for how you decided what tools to use, how you went about finding those new tools, how you planned all that, and then also like as a what MarTech tools do you even need? Like, I feel like there's more and more out there every day, and sometimes for maybe more experienced people, it's easier to kind of just know intuitively from years and years. But I think for newer people in that marketing world, newer founders, it can be intimidating to figure out what tools to use, what do you need, what don't you need. Yeah, so maybe we can start at B and just tell me a little bit about kind of what you started with there, what you were thinking about, and what you kind of came in with.
Mhm.
Mapy, what tools you have, what didn't you have, and then we can kind of go from there.
Okay. So with Mapy, it was a little different than in any other company I was in, as it was a already mature product. Like it has been on a market for like 15 years, but just recently they started to monetize it. As it was a part of the bigger company, it was like a freebie for people. And I honestly think it's a really great product for hiking everywhere on the planet. It's like most precise maps, but they had never been monetizing it till last December. So nothing was really set. And when I came, they just started with it, just doing QA, but nothing major in MarTech, like no MMP, no revenue infrastructure, no nothing. So it was fun to start like that. And then knowing a little, at least, about MarTech, I jumped into it and said, okay, we need an MMP because otherwise, when we scale, we don't see the true value we are getting back. And in this scale, which Mapy has like 4 million, 5 million monthly active users. So in this scale, you need to think about pricing and what you are getting for that. There was no revenue infrastructure. It was like homemade. And it's often okay if you start with just one tier, one SKU, often deriving it from the web Mapy where first a web product and then it's changed to mobile. So they only had one product, a trial product for a week, then for a year. So actually there's no need for infrastructure that much for now, because if you are in for a year, the next renewal will be by the end of this year. So we are just working toward that date. But the first thing I really had to do is like start orienting myself and see what is happening here. It's a company of like 50 people, and some people are borrowed from like a bigger mother company. There's a local media house. So a lot of people working on different things. So just like usual handshakes and seeing what others are doing. My priority was first focused on money. It's like if you are investing in something, it needs to be at least average good. So we had to do the MMP first,
It
and
sounds like
then
your kind of initial scope was like, okay, you're coming in to grow the app where they're going to start monetizing. And so that are you kind of owning that overall growth and overall monetization for Mapy?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
I'm responsible for all the growth together with other people that are working on it. It's not just like one man's job,
Sure.
but that should be my priority. And then we focused on things that I could do myself, like ASO a little, screenshots and keywords, something that hasn't been worked on very much in the past. And again, they just started. And then there's a long queue of things we want to implement because, yeah, MMP is one thing, but another thing was a Lifecycle tool, then the revenue infrastructure tool, and then some product features that we wanted them in the app or didn't want. And that's one huge topic for me always. It's like finding out what users want is something that is like tremendously important, because just like by launching a simple survey for like few thousand of users, you can easily find what people like about your app, what they dislike, features they don't want to use or don't want to pay for, and features they are willing to pay for, even they are not like fully implemented or fully developed features.
And
So
so,
it's like pretty easy hack, if you will.
yeah. And so that's why that's why you thought a lifecycle marketing tool was important.
Yeah.
So I think different views on like for newer apps that are just kind of growing. I sometimes don't recommend like focusing on lifecycle marketing as much early on, where it's just, especially for subscription apps, where you really need to focus on just on monetization and like conversion. And then once you've figured out how to convert users into your product, now let's focus on lifecycle marketing, where I feel like it can be a distraction. But for a larger product, I think it's like pretty critical because you have obviously a large engaged user base. Do you, I've looked at your facial expressions. Maybe you disagree a little bit with that. You know, your
A
thoughts on
lot.
like priority of lifecycle marketing tools, especially if it's like small team versus large team, new app, existing app? Yeah. How do you think about that?
I think maybe we are talking about different thing when we mean life cycle marketing. For me, it means also comms when you start in the app, like when you install, including onboarding. Mapy still doesn't have any onboarding, but my hope is that once we have it implemented, you can start with like a full size window, like HTML version of your onboarding, and ask users about different questions. Basically, like replacing the native onboarding with your onboarding. And I think it's very important to have it because then again, you can get motivations and something more about the user because Mapy has like 4 different kind of users. It's like general user that just want to see, I know, their neighborhood, but then you have hikers, bikers, people who want to use it for their cars as navigation. And it's very hard to cater for all of them at once if you don't know anything about them. It's very hard to even just like deciding on what to be shown in a menu or as like first thing to do if you don't know anything about them. So that's why I think it's important. Mostly in-app message. If it was anything, it would be in-app messaging. That was very important for me, especially because it's not usually the first thing to integrate when you are doing a new app. So yeah, I don't care much about emails, push notifications,
That's
maybe, but
that's what I was talking about. I was for new apps, my lifecycle marketing, I was saying push notifications, emails, essentially, where it's like, you know, the the math in my head is, well, the larger the user base, the more impact you can have. And you're going to see incremental lift, but you're not going to see 30% gains from email campaigns. But
no.
you could see that from your onboarding optimization, for example, right? And so I think that's what you're getting at. And so that makes sense to me. What tools do you like for net messaging?
Well, surprisingly, there's not that much that would play well with the rest of the tech stack. I mean, there are some like separate in-app messaging tools, but I don't think they are that much that good. Usually, what you want to not just like be able to show an in-app message, you also want to somehow interact with your with your user database. So saving some values that came from that onboarding, using that database to show proper messaging, and it's not that much common to have it unless it's a like well-known tool. So we are sticking with OneSignal
Yeah,
because for this they are good enough. They also support Liquid, which is a tagging language, something like a JavaScript, so you can use value inside and use, for example, user's name or registration date or whatever you have for them saved. And I would recommend everyone to start with them since the pricing is like fair enough for starters and still good enough for like a bigger scaling gaps.
gotcha. Yeah. I think it's tough. The lifecycle marketing tools, you get attracted by these big guys, the Braves, the iterables, and then you see the price tag and you go, maybe I don't need that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So,
That's
so
priced like 4 times higher for a majority of the like
yeah,
bigger tools.
I think there is value. I see that when I think when you understand what you're doing there and you reach ceilings, I think there's definitely a place that they do have better capabilities. They do have more power. And so I've used Braze in a lot of companies. I like them, but I don't think it's the only answer. So so we've got lifecycle marketing tool, product analytics. Is that external tool or do you have that in house?
It in-house, it's usually not that useful because it's in-house, right? So a few people uses it, they are used to it, so it's hard to share dashboards or whatever. It's usually built on Tableau or I don't know, some tool like that. It's fine, it works, and I like it, and it's the only tool we have right now. But if it was my decision and my budget, that is also important. I'll probably do something else like Amplify.
Yeah. It's tough with premium products or free products where you go, okay, well, 10% of our users are paying us, but we have to pay these analytics tools for every single user, regardless if we're making money from them. And so this freemium model for apps doesn't always kind of align with the business model of these analytics tools and any tool that charges just on monthly active users. So there's kind of a disconnect between the business models.
Yeah, there's a way around that. Like if you decide to start the analytics SDK just in the countries you care for, just like in the US, right? You cut the rest, which might be good or not. Like it really depends. But for the rest, you can just use Google Analytics. I hate it, but it's still free. So
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a really interesting approach where you go, okay, well, if we look at 20, 30, 40% of our users, cuts our bill in half, but the goal isn't to look at behavior of every single user. The goal is to look at behavior of users in aggregate and make informed decisions. And so if we have enough of our users, and even better, if we're only looking at the users that are really making us money in the top countries, that's probably even better for decision making. That's really interesting approach. You've done that before?
yeah, we've done that before. Not here in Mapy, but it can save some money. And you need to know what you're doing, and you need to be sure that users in like different parts of the world don't matter to you.
Yeah. Do you think it's better to do on a country basis, or do you think just doing like random sampling?
That depends on your user base, really. Like if you didn't have any like major country that users are coming from, then yes. If majority, like half of your users are in the States, then I would probably do only States if I had to save some money.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So then you just have to set up like the initialization of the SDK to work with your developers
Based
to
on
go,
Firebase, yeah, based on Firebase, like localization and detection.
got it. So it's
Localization
kind of
detection.
like an ongoing feature flag type thing where it's
Yeah,
only deployed for users with this IP address from this country or something like that, or this locale from that they pull from the device.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting, interesting. But right now you have an internal database, and Tableau sits on top of that for visualization of data, and that you have web, mobile, and iOS and Android products.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, that iOS and Android.
How I've worked with some web products, but I've worked with less. Like, what do you think the important things to think about are if you have a mobile only product versus a web and mobile product? How do you approach that differently?
I think the audience is different or can be different. Like what we can see is audience on the web is like less likely to churn. They are used to use the app on the web. They are probably like long-term users, not necessarily paying, just long-term users. I would say that it's just still more convenient to use it on the web because it's just bigger, right? You don't care about bigger if it's a banking app, but you care about it if it's a map. So I would say the audience might be different. It might monetize differently. As we can see, it's a little different. Like we still have just one product on Mapy, but I bet that there'll be some difference in buying behavior when we do more tiers on a web. It's probably also a different time and like different setup of usage. Like you probably check your map on the go on mobile, but you're in a planning mode possibly when you are on desktop. So
Do you
it's
think
different.
people need to use different tools or different things in their MarTech stack if you're, or is it generally the same tools, just kind of using them slightly differently?
I would probably prefer to use the same tools. Yeah, you have a different, probably different A/B testing tool, or you can have different analytics tool like Pulse Hawk or I don't know what. But I would beg everyone to use same tools because there is a same set of same or similar like measurements that you can use and compare users in between web and mobile. Because if it's different providers, they have different definitions and you might not get the same answers for the same users.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And so you mentioned you have some analytics built in house or Tableau on top of kind of your internal tool, and you are using other product analytics. Have you had other roles where you had meaningful MarTech infrastructure built in-house? And then how do you think about like building versus buying, right? I think it's a classic decision. I think as marketers, we always go buy, buy, buy. We want to use all the tools. And then I think sometimes more product or engineering side goes, we can build that. And I think that it oftentimes like different views internally. There's also like different cultures of different companies, right? About the right way to do things. Yeah. How do you think about that? The build versus buy?
Well, I mostly was working with companies that had their like in-house data stack, mostly coming from product side. Like everything like over the products, like marketing related was like added to the product stack, product data stack, for better or worse. But I was always been a buy type of marketer. I don't Personally, I don't see any advantage of like building in-house unless it's super important to have it in-house and super secret or whatever. Like you are, it's just like a matter of like saving time for everyone, and you are tracking question and hard decisions that someone did in the past for you, and it's waiting and it's ready for you, just like for your time too. You're actually using money for time, and you might not have necessarily knowledge about that. Often I was working with super clever people that they were like a data analytics, but they didn't have the knowledge for like of implementation in mobile world, which is like more difficult than web, I would say. So it's always much harder to do it right when it's in-house. And I think it pays off just to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I forget where I heard this. Is a good saying that stuck with me is where, for you build where you want to differentiate, where it's a really key value prop for you, build that. For everything else, just copy from somebody else or buy it. Like you don't need to reinvent the wheel, but focus really on where it'll be impactful for you. And that can be a differentiator.
Yeah, and building on what you said, oftentimes, and I bet it's a goal for a lot of founders that you want to be bought the company and invested, right? And you want to have similar metric as the investors they are looking for. And suddenly, if you need to come up with a metrics that is not like standard in your in-house data stack, then it's very hard to come up with like a reliable answer. So the more common tool you are using, the better for you if you want to be invested. Like there are ways around it, obviously, but if you have it from the scratch, then probably better for you.
That's interesting. That's a really good point of using just common metrics. Make sure you're not measuring things differently from everybody else. So people can, investors, acquirers can compare apples to apples, but then also, I guess it's probably seen as a positive sign that there's more scalable infrastructure if you're using commonly accepted tools out there.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. And so like, you and I may know a lot from working in mobile and marketing and growth for years, but how does how does someone newer, like, okay, maybe you worked in marketing for some other type of company, or maybe you worked in product for, a CPG company, and now you're getting into working for a mobile app. Like, how do you familiarize yourself with the MarTech landscape? Like, how do you learn what things are out there? Where do you start?
Big question. There's so much noise around. I was thinking about it, and I would probably ask AI to come up with outros that I should trust. And not for everything, like for a lot of things, AI is not reliable, but like for such a similar, like kind of easy questions, I think it's reliable enough to give you some start. Obviously, like it's still different. For example, Eric Zoifert might be like very reliable and a great source, but only for some people. He's not into UA that much anymore, like for the details, how to set up a meta campaign. He's probably not the best source. So if you ask ChatGPT or Claude or whoever careful enough, you get some answers. And from those people, you can follow them on X, on LinkedIn. Surprisingly, I'm getting a lot of like new information on LinkedIn. It's counterintuitive because everyone hates it. But for some reason, for mobile marketing, it still works. Anna Parvas has a great, is a great resource in this matter. Thomas Betty is on X, Steve Young is on X, Marcus is on LinkedIn. So yeah, that's usually where I go. But I think it only applies to mobile growth marketing. I can't say it works for anything else. For vibe coding, it's surprisingly YouTube. That's probably one of the best sources for like deeper content.
So like, instead of trying to go like just research tools directly, go follow people that are influential in the space and then see what they're talking about, learn from them and kind of get tool recommendations or from their kind of content, you think?
Yeah, definitely. If I'm if I'm usually when I'm trying to solve some problem I usually Googling tool for X. Like ideally for like smaller things, like Figma for whatever, or a plugin for Figma for whatever. That works great usually. As like usually the problem you are solving has already been solved. You just need to find that person who made that plugin and wants you to pay 10, $20 for it. So for smaller problems, this is a good solution too.
Yeah, that's a good little tool for like reframing for how to search and find things. Yeah, yeah. I think, something that's tough in Google is just making it past the paid search results. And then, big companies, even if they're not paid search results, they can spend more on SEO and content creation. And like, I always find it tough okay, I have a few options, but how do I figure out from all this marketing, like what's actually capabilities, and then like, okay, there's all these capabilities and what functionality do I even need in these tools? And I always get excited about, oh, I could do this, this, and this, and this. But in reality, like I don't have time for all that stuff. I just need to focus on the most important thing that's actually going to make a difference. So like, one, how do you cut through the noise of all the marketing out there from these big companies? To figure out what you actually need, and then how do you like decipher the functionality that's actually possible versus just marketing messages on the website?
Yeah, that's hard for me. I'm always after a new shiny thing.
Yeah.
So the rule I have, just like a small rule, like a feeling more than a rule. It's when I go to a website that possibly has an answer for me or a solution, maybe. Like if they have a pricing page, it's good. If they don't, it's not for me. The same goes for as like a title. If I don't understand title, it's probably not for me. Honestly, like it's either my fault because I don't know what I want exactly, or it's their fault because they didn't write it well, and therefore I shouldn't be caring much if they don't have good marketers. And also, I don't know, like just recently, I came up with some tools I was researching, and a few of them had AI on like the very first word on a page, and that also for me it also tells something because why AI is great for voice and image or video, whatever. It's definitely not good for any predictions or like synthetic users. For example, was one thing I was curious about, like AI that supposedly like simulates users and tells you what if the ad is good or not. So that kind of thing I don't really trust.
Yeah. Why on the pricing page? Like, what is it just about the transparency where if you see they don't have prices listed or don't have a pricing page, you think, oh, it's expensive, or you just don't like yeah. What about that is a signal for you?
Yeah, exactly. Like if they are not like it's connected, right? So if they don't have pricing exactly, it says like who does or something. It's usually a sales process, which is costly. So it means the tool itself is costly. While it starts on like I don't know $50 or $100, you can say it's for small developers or small companies.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. And is there any like, I often so on the pricing page, I often find that good detailed ones are the most valuable for me because I can scroll down and look at the actual feature set. I always click see more. Like the standard pricing page is never enough. I go, okay, then I actually go down through each little functionality. I go, okay, I need that, that, and that. And so I think for if you know what you need, it's super valuable to actually understand the specific features.
Yeah, exactly. As you say, I almost never go to features pages. I go to pricing page and see what's there in like 3 words for like a line, so I can understand it better and quicker.
For me, the same thing as documentation. I usually before I even start using a product or like I know the marketing is going to promise me the world, it can do anything, but then I go into the documentation, look at actually what functionality they have, and it's okay, now I actually understand the product and what it's actually doing. So that's my tip for cutting through the noise is just look at documentation and user guides and support docs, because that's what people actually are, how people are actually using the tool.
Yeah. Great, right?
Cool. So all right, so so for our tools, you've got going back a little bit. You've got MMP. You found an MMP. I think for it's the real difference in like MMPs today. Like I just feel like I'm not as tapped in on the acquisition side. Like they all feel like they do the same thing. Like how do you pick?
I only have experience with two, AppsFlyer and Branch.
Yeah.
I understand that there's like special kind of MMP for Kuchava because of the volume. Is it Kuchava? Possibly it's Kuchava. But it's like one MMP that mainly for games, and then maybe some smaller MMP partners. So there was definitely a difference in between what the Branch was offering, like in case of like pricing, and it felt like a little underdeveloped compared to AppsFlyer.
Yeah.
I just thought to myself, I have some budget for that. I don't care that much for the difference in like for the budget we have for UA. It doesn't play that huge role, and I want to have an industry standard. I just want to compare with others, and if there's a trouble, I want to be able to discuss it with something. If you pick some unknown MMP, then it's very hard to debug anything really, unless they have a great support, which is not always the case.
Yeah, that makes sense. Got it. I think Branch started with deep links, and that was really how they got
And
into
they're
the
great in
market,
it.
and then they went into attribution. I think they have good attribution tools now. I'm sure it's solid. I haven't used them in a while, but I mean, I think if you have complicated deep linking needs, they're probably still the best option and the most power in terms of your deep links. I don't know if most companies need the power they have. And I think deep links are also, or at least like deferred deep linking is also works less well now after privacy changes in iOS 14.
Yeah.
And so it kind of works. There's worse work around it, but it's not as reliable as it used to. It's never worked perfectly, but it's just not as reliable as it used to be. And then also, what is it? Google links, the dynamic links,
Yeah,
Firebase links,
dynamic links,
it got deprecated.
sunsetted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sunsetted. So there might be people out there looking for deep link tools now. Are there any? I have found that there's not great deep linking tool options besides MMPs. Do you see any
It's
other
not.
out there?
No, I was looking for exactly the same. I was thinking maybe there's a hole in the market, and maybe like a good developer can fill it in. But it's very hard, very technical. You
Yeah.
would need to understand it very well, and there's so many troubles you can get on the road. So I understand the pricing, because just like solving different trouble with the different platforms is so difficult, then it doesn't make sense to develop it on your own or go with some like small independent provider.
Yeah. 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 So it seems like most people just use whatever deep links their MMP offers, and that's that. Interesting. So, okay. So we've got MMP, you've got some deep links there. You've got product analytics, you've got Tableau on top of your data warehouse for BI and visualization. You have revenue infrastructure that was originally built in-house, and you're exploring other options because you want to add more prices, but you have a year to do it, to figure it out because you just added annual options. How did you, this is, not exactly related to the MarTech side, but like, how did you figure out that first price to go with? That's always scary.
It wasn't me. Like they started like in December, and then I joined in May,
Oh,
late May maybe. So I think it was a like decision based on price that would be acceptable here in Czech Republic, which is like $10 for a year.
oh
I was
wow.
like, okay, then the UA will be very hard. So there will be changes for sure. But I think because Mapy was a free product, like not freemium, free product for a long time, I think the main motivation was not to make people angry that much and see where it goes. Like if it was a product that people are not willing to pay for, 150 crowns, like $10, 11 maybe, would not be that much, and possibly like it would not anger them that much, and yeah, you wouldn't be paying, and then it wouldn't matter what price tag it had. So just after we realized it really has a potential, they decided to go internationally, and then there'll be changes and revenue infrastructure will be necessary.
Yep, got it. And then, so you might be more, it sounds like you might be a little more conservative on monetization right now in terms of how hard you're pushing it.
Yes, it's like the features that are behind the paywall are, I think, good. But if it was on me, I would be much stricter and do many more behind the paywall, because still you are getting a good value for free. And if you want to download a map offline, that's definitely something you can pay for.
Yeah. You take like a true premium approach where you just let people into the tool and then you have a few upsells, or do you like have a paywall that you show to all new users coming in?
Right now, the paywall is not shown automatically. It's just like a small button that you can see
Yeah.
when you are going through the map. But yeah, I think the one metric I really like is impression to paywall. I mean, like launch to paywall, sorry.
Mhm.
So it should be like very close to 100%, 90% at least.
Yeah. And so I imagine right now um, I think one app who does this really well is Strava, where they show up paywall to everybody, but they have all these kind of contextual upsells throughout the product. You kind of can use things, but then you have, other CTAs. And so right now you're probably kind of trying to drive usage to those premium features that people purchase, I would imagine.
Yeah, I like how Strava is doing it, but it takes a long time to figure it out and a lot of data. So it's not for everyone from scratch.
So you're right now trying to figure out what features are kind of converting people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like we don't know yet. And that's why the survey, back to the beginning,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
important.
Got it. And so, there's two pieces, right? You can ask people what they would pay for, and then you can see what they actually pay for, right? And sometimes those two things are different, where people say what they pay for, but they don't actually. And sometimes people, pay for completely different things or other things convert. So how do you balance that qualitative and the quantitative?
Well, I was always a quantitative guy, but I understand why you need to talk with users. I mean, like you can't, you can, but you shouldn't be asking directly, like, what's the feature we are willing to pay? But you can be asking like, hey, what's the feature you like the most? Was the feature you would need to download another app if it wasn't here? So you can ask users, hey, what's the most important and least important feature for you? And then see what the users are like and compare it users that are paying for the app, users that are not paying for the app. And then you can more or less easily see that there's definitely features that are willing to pay and features that are users liking but not willing to pay, like going through the map, right? No one will pay for that ever.
Yeah. What have you, anything you're able to share, anything you've learned that's maybe interesting, counterintuitive, or you're surprised about?
Unfortunately, we are still waiting for a survey to be launched. But I suppose like the most important thing and why we can't ask users because users are not they don't know about any feature really because it's not communicated well. You can find a feature in the app if you really want to, like downloading the maps, but it's not actively communicated. So it's very hard to ask because they can't say for sure. They haven't tried.
And this goes back to your in-app messaging tool, where
Yeah.
in-app messaging is so powerful to drive early activation. I've found that it's hard to change product roadmaps. It's hard to change entire product designs. But if you can get a simple in-app messaging functionality, you can guide people to those features, guide people to those areas of the app.
Yeah. You can hack so much with just HTML and JavaScript inside the app. It's almost unbelievable. Like that would be the biggest hack of all the growth marketers.
So you think like just getting, and that sounds like something you just build in house where you have a simple just ability to deploy some job, like a little pop-up or a little web view.
Exactly. Like I did it in the past with Brace because Brace also allows you to come up with a full HTML page, and you can do like so much testing and like so much different like offering inside that web view. You can almost like do the whole product in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you can like, you have a simple button, simple education. Hey, did you know about this feature? And then you have a deep link that just opens up that feature. And if they want it, yeah, it's quite powerful. And I think I've heard people talk about it for years and years, but I still think it's underutilized in terms of like, it can often be, I've often found it helpful for validation of the product roadmap, where if you can show, we can show this in-app message and getting people to this feature, increase retention, that's a much easier sell to your tech teams, engineering leaders. Go, okay, here, look, we should build it. Please build it now. I proved that it's going to work.
Exactly. And even like testing, like doing a smoke test and like asking people, hey, would you like to try feature X? Like small window, and it goes nowhere, obviously. But if they click, it's still valuable to know.
Yeah, 100%. So sometimes you can get the in-app messaging through your lifecycle marketing tool. Some tools don't have great options. If you don't have it in your lifecycle marketing tool for in-app messaging, you think that it's simple enough to just display to build simple tests yourself.
Yeah, it is. Especially with vibe coding, you
Yeah.
can do mostly anything you want.
Yeah, cool.
Like you have your product in a Figma, like that's what your designer does, and then you can take the Figma design, make code, use it, and design exactly the same look in HTML.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart. Very cool. All right, so this has been awesome. I think it sounds like generally when you're getting started, you want to think about MMPs, lifecycle marketing tools, product analytics, and maybe revenue infrastructure, probably revenue infrastructure, depending on your sophistication. And then like, that's kind of your base.
Yeah, you can do some, I don't know, ASO that's useful, but it's useful to see what people are searching for, and it's just useful to see are not usually ranking first and how much effort it takes. So yeah, if I had to, I would add effort to that would be ASO tool,
Yeah.
like AppTweak.
Yeah. And there's a lot of ones cheap out. They're pretty cheap. And so it's not hard to kind of get started there. Nice. Well, I want to close it out. We talked about AI a little bit, but I'd love to try to ask everybody, we have to talk about AI. What any tips can you share, or maybe the coolest thing you've done recently with AI, or any ways it's like actually making your job easier or improving your job?
Okay, I'll go against it and say the coolest thing that I did in the last few weeks was not cool, but it was also not automation. Sorry, I was automation, as we have a lot of different languages and a lot of different custom landing pages for Mapy. and it's tremendously difficult to come up with new versions because then you need to translate it. Or like even if like one version is successful, then you need to translate it to all other versions. So what we did was automation in Figma that takes like you have to create the screen in a way that everything on a screen is also a text layer, including the app. So you can like simplify the UI of the app on the screen, on a screenshot, and do text layers. And then there's one plugin that takes auto text from all your screenshots from a Play Store, export it as a text layer in an Excel file. You just need to translate it and export it back, and it automatically creates like all the translations for you. So like from 4 variations of App Store screens and Play Store screen, you have certainly, I don't know, 10 more, 20 languages more. So 200 screenshots instantly.
What this was it? You built this automation, or is a tool out there?
No, it's like, again, like I was searching for a tool that will do X in Figma. For me, it's called CopyDoc. And it works. CopyDoc, and it works like a miracle. Like still, if it's too long, you need to play a little with it, but it's much less time than you doing it manually or your designer not doing it.
Yeah, there used to be whole companies built on localization and having translators all around the world, and you'd pay thousands of dollars and like to just localize all your content. And now it's like click of a button. It's pretty amazing. Cool. Well, any before we end, any last kind of MarTech tips? Any advice for people struggling in the MarTech world for their apps?
Okay, I think don't worry if you don't feel like you are catching up with the latest AI trends, because it will be very different in like 2-3 years. So everything you are using right now will be obsolete by then. So don't feel bad about it. Just like you can start over in 3 years.
Good reassurance for everybody. Don't worry about it. Just ignore it. I'm kidding, but yeah, that's good. Cool. Anything you want to promote or send people to? We'll include can include your LinkedIn and the show notes. Anything else you'd like people to go check out?
I don't know, honestly. Like I don't feel like I'm oriented myself. It's like tremendously difficult to just stay on the top. So just don't underestimate LinkedIn in what it provides. Sometimes it's not that bad.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, we'll and then everybody go use Mapy.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's for sure. Yes, I forgot. And it's really good hiking and biking app. Honestly, I'm using it. I was using it even before I was here. Like I'm using it last, been using it last 15 years.
All countries now?
In all countries. It works great in Europe, in States. It's very good. In South America, it's great. So yeah,
amazing.
Definitely good tool for
go check it out.
Sunday hike.
All right. Well, thanks, Jakub. This is awesome. Really appreciate you taking the time to kind of share your knowledge from all your experience. Yeah, really appreciate you joining.
A pleasure. Thank you, Jacob.
All right. Thanks. Bye.